Oh, hello, Remso. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Mark. How
Funny
goes it?
seeing you here on our podcast.
Yeah, like it's only been so long.
I don't often see you on this podcast, actually, and you haven't often seen me. Actually, that is ties right into what we're going to talk about a little bit here today. In a minute, are some big changes coming to this podcast? No, we're not breaking up. No, we're not going away. But as you've all seen, fans have been following the show for a while. We started this thing way back during the darkest days of the old I'm not even going to say that word. You know, whatever they say it is, it is. But as you know, it's been a little difficult to get together consistently for this podcast for a lot of reasons, for good reasons, because Remso and I have a lot going on in our lives, and it's been really tough to be consistent often for this podcast. As fans who were here with us from the beginning know, we used to do like 2.5 hour deep dives, and I feel like that really became our bread and butter. But once time got in the way of that, once we were no longer didn't have jobs to go to, didn't have a bunch of things going on as we do now, we kind of had to get away from that a little bit so that we could still deliver a weekly show. But now we've kind of come to another head here, and we're going to explain just that. Remso, would you like to address some things that are going on here?
Yeah, so I mean, changes for Second Brick Comics is nothing new. If you've been with us since 2020, you know that like Mark and I will do shows from our car. We'll do it from the floor. Like we've gone through, job losses.
Remso's in an abandoned house right now, actually.
I am in someone's basement.
He just found this headset. Thank God they had a headset there.
Yeah, like this person has a way better setup than I do. Last week people were complaining about the audio, which when I did an episode a couple weeks ago, they were complaining about the audio. I mean, the truth was, and I said it in the Second for Comics fan zone, our private Facebook group. They were like, "What were you doing?" And I was like, "I was recording at 3 a.m. in the morning in the hallway,
and trying not to wake your wife up.
And trying not to wake her up. And I have no excuse, and I had no time to jump into it. And the original audio file was shit too. So like, we have done everything we possibly could. Even when we took the hiatus, Mark was still uploading old episodes and shit.
And they did really well, actually. It's almost sad. Some of them did better than newer episodes. I'm like, you could just go back and listen. Also, you don't need to listen here. But people enjoyed those older episodes. And
that's advertisers, thank you all.
Yes, thank you very much. Stephen Fox thanks you. Which reminds me that, of course, do I have one in the? I don't have it in the room. Yes, I do. Look, here it is.
Huzzah!
It's getting smaller. I just talked to Stephen today, and I got another bag coming because it's starting to get towards the end. Fox & Sons. I choose the Den Blend Dark. They also have all sorts. There's always new beans he's getting in there. Pea berries, honey preps, wild stuff. But you can get them all at foxandsons.com, FOXNSONS.com. Use discount code, very important, discount code, Second Print Pod. You got to spell it out. The word second, I'm doing it with my fingers for those on the video. The word second, Print Pod, all one word. 15% off. Can't beat that. Check out our sponsor.
Some of you are fucking. I already ruined that. Some of you.
This is why we have to change things, folks.
Yeah,
we're at the end of our ropes here.
Sometimes. Yeah, some of you were losing our minds. Some of you were paying full price for stuff, and you're like, "Oh, I just bought some," and it's like, "But you paid full price. You could have saved you some money, bro."
I mean, I'm sure Stephen Fox is happy to get full price orders, but then he doesn't know they came from us. So use the code. Use the code. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, but we're not strangers to changes. And we used to do 2 shows a week. I don't even know how we did that. First, we were doing like 2-hour episodes.
Oh my God, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, we used to do the newsroom. Like we're doing that. I didn't wear pants for half those episodes, people. I gotta be straight with you. Like I was just like, I was just like in a bathrobe sometimes. So like, we've done stuff, but it got to the point where Mark and I are also like, we also have day jobs and we're still doing this.
And more than one of them.
Yeah, like a lot. Like we're like Jamaicans. Like we just have like 15 things going on at a time.
I just did a whole bonus show for my show, the Mark Claire show, where I was breaking down, I don't know, years ago, I don't know if you remember these days when John Odermatt on Lions of Liberty, we're crossing a lot of streams here, started talking about income streams, and then it kind of became almost like a meme where we were always talking about 7 income streams. Remso, I just broke it down. When you add in this new one that we'll talk about in a minute, I now have 7 income streams. I have 7 fucking jobs, Remso. But I like them all, and that is the good thing. I enjoy everything I do. I can truly say that.
So Mark and I for years have always joked, like if somebody offered to just buy Second Brick Comics, we would let them probably do that. And it wasn't because we were just kind of like let it go. It's just because like we love this content and we always want things to be high quality and get you stuff that you like. And, it got to the point where we were just really, at one point, we were just like, we should shutter the show because the quality isn't there. It's not that the passion wasn't there, but the quality wasn't there. When Mark and I aren't doing the show together, it doesn't really feel the same when we have to do it alone or something else. And you all kind of see that. That you're not getting what you've usually prepared for. So recently, I work for a company that bought my old company, and for over close to 2 years now, one of the properties within that is Bounding in the Comics. Many of you know me as I've been the editor of Bounding in the Sports for about 7-8 months right now. And, I did marketing for the Bounding in the Comics brand, but I never really messed around with it. And the opportunity for us to integrate wasn't necessarily there at first because I also didn't, my company was cool with me having Second Print Comics and doing stuff because, we have different audiences, different purposes. So it wasn't like a conflict issue. There just wasn't a real compatibility issue. But recently there have been some major changes to Bounding in the Comics, and I was basically put, to task with the creative team of trying to make some pretty significant changes. And one of the big things is bringing in different personalities to create different sets of, content. So of course, who's the first person I'm going to think of? The first person I'm going to think of is
Eric Larson.
Yeah, totally.
Mark Waid.
Why not get Dan Didio while we're at it? Heather Antos and such. But no, I mean, my first person was Mark, because who better to do some of this stuff? And I've already, like a lot of you already knew that something was going on because I was sharing stuff from Stephen Kent, Brett Smith, Matt Battaglia, all friends of ours. And of course, Mark, who's been doing written content and the videos have been doing very well. So you all kind of knew it's like Remso and Mark are doing something at Bounding in the Comics. Some of you knew about my day job stuff for a while, but you didn't really know how deep it went. So, essentially, I'm a behind the scenes guy. I'm more like in a producer role, working with the great editors, writers, and influencer and content creator staff at Bounding in the Comics. And, Mark is really one of the new faces we've brought in. And this is just great because this allows us to do what we want to do, which is talk comics, change the world, man. Like that's the goal. So I feel like, Mark called it, the Friends of Remso All Stars, because I was just like, we've got the network of people, we've got artists, we've got content creators, writers, great personalities, and Mark's been really vibing with the Bounding audience and team and stuff like that. So it just got to the point where it's like, guys, like we made it, we've gone mainstream, we're actually getting our stuff out in the way that we want to do it with that Bounding in the Comics flair that a lot of you, almost everyone who's an SPC fan is a Bounding in the Comics fan too. So, I mean, the synergy was just there. But, like with that though, that takes time. That's a bigger, more professional arrangement than other stuff. So when we kind of settled that agreement, we were just like, we're still delivering content to people. We're still talking about the things we love. We end Second Print Comics? And Mark and I, we're never going to let our bastard child go wayside.
We just can't. We can't. No. It's like you can't. Once your kid is a couple years old, you can't give it up for adoption anymore or give them away. You've gotten too attached, and that's how we see all you guys. We're a little too attached. We'd like to give you up. We'd like to just leave you on the side of the road, but we're going to see that shiny look in your eyes, and we're going to turn the car around. We're going to pick you up in the blanket, and we're going to take you back home and tell you everything's going to be okay.
We sound horrible, but the big thing is that we're actually giving people more stuff than ever before.
But yes, that is where all of this is going. So the point of this, where is this all going? You've been talking for 9 minutes here. What are we trying to say? Here's the crux of the matter. The Second Print Comics podcast, as the weekly podcast that you know it, is in fact winding down because the fact is we don't have the time, as you've seen by jumping in with other co-hosts, Remso doing shows in the hallway. We just don't have the time to always get together for a full show every single week and really to properly grow a podcast. And frankly, we've seen this reflected in the numbers a little bit. You need to be consistent and you need to be able to do things in the right quality at the right consistency. And luckily we have our core fans that have stuck around because these guys have been with, and gals have been with us from the beginning, many of them in the Patreon where we really do have a ton of fun. So instead of just shutting the whole thing down, we are going to end the Second Print Comics podcast as a vehicle for being a podcast. And most of our public-facing comics content, especially for me, you'll be seeing me over at Bounding into Comics. You can already go find Marc Claire versus the comic book industry series over there at the Bounding YouTube. I already did a preview of Alpha Core, a book that I have right here, and I did a video review, a non-spoiler review, so you can feel free to watch it over at Bounding into Comics of the Ripper versus. It's not their first book, but it's the first one. To me, Remso, I see this as like, this was the test. This is like, okay, it's first I saw 1 and 2. This is Eric July's passion project. A lot of people are supporting him because we like Eric July. We want to give him the chance. We want to see what he's going to do. But this is like, okay, we're a comic company now. We have Chuck Dixon. We have Joe Bennett on this thing. This is it. Check it out. And this is, I'm not going to spoil anything yet. I will probably do a spoiler-filled review for the SPC patrons because, by the way, we're still going to have a Patreon, and we're still going to have a lot of content in there. In fact, as Remso mentioned, we're going to have more content than before. So why don't we just start there? With the public podcast, we still have a YouTube channel. We'll still do some video work here and there. And Remso, actually, believe it or not, you actually have a new show I think you're going to start doing there as well. So why don't you just start with that?
This will be on Patreon, but we're still going to be posting some stuff on the regular feed. So don't go ahead and think that you're just going to go ahead and unsubscribe.
Don't unsubscribe. Yeah, we'll still have stuff.
So we're still going to be doing, I'll have Remso rants every other Sunday. My thing is, if you're going to listen to that, I want to make sure that they're good half-hour long shows. That was one of the other things. Like for patrons, I want to make sure that you're really getting a bang for your buck. So if this, I'm adding more quality focus onto my content. So you're going to get those for half an hour. Something you're going to get weekly, starting every Friday. So this ties into another thing. Our Substack account, our fucking subs. I curse way too freaking much. I'm horrible for YouTube. Our Substack account is moving from Sunday. So the SPC Sunday Scoop is now SPC Weekly. Those will be every Friday. They're going to highlight a lot of the stuff going on in the Patreon, as well as our Bounding in the Comics faces, Mark, Brett Smith from DC Comics. I remember reading Brett's stuff. He was the colorist for Superman New 52, Suicide Squad New 52. He's been a friend of mine for over a year and a half. We worked at another website. I was like, Brett, you got to come over here to Bounding in the Comics. We got him on. He's got a show called, Escape the Future. He had me on for the first episode. We discussed the Napoleon movie. He had Chuck Dixon on last week. So, I mean, it's going to be that.
Chuck. I love that interview.
It was awesome. So, you're going to see a lot of the Bounding faces there, but you're going to get the Patreon update. So make sure you signed up for our Substack. But every Friday in the morning, so this is going to be your morning commute show. You're going to get, the Friday recap, what you need to know from the week from me. I'm still kind of deciding a name on it, but you're going to basically get all the news from the week. You're going to get my take on it, what you need to know. So as you get to work, you can talk about it on your way home, bitch about it online later. I got you covered every Friday. So you're going to get your Friday news of the week every Friday. So you're welcome.
Exciting time. So yes, there will still be public-facing content. Probably occasionally I'll do some stuff on YouTube as well. So maybe any stuff that doesn't really fit into the kind of formatting I'm doing at Bounding. I might experiment with some YouTube content there. The point is, this gives us the freedom because, as I've said before, and as I tell my podcast consulting clients, to really grow a podcast, to really do it right, you got to be weekly, you got to be consistent, and we just really can't do that with everything else we're doing. But that doesn't mean we're done making content. That doesn't mean we're done doing commentary. You're going to find all my stuff over at Bounding into Comics, a bunch of my stuff, and the overflow from that, and a bunch of other stuff you're going to get behind the paywall at the SPC Comics Club. So now, instead of the SPC Comics Podcast Patreon, we're turning this into more of a club, more of a community. That's actually, we're not really turning it into that. We're just kind of recognizing it more so because it's already really become that over the last couple of years since we started the show. It really is a club. It really is a community. As much as we hate big tech, the forum on Facebook has really become a blast. We really
the only reason I'm on Facebook.
It's literally the only reason I'm on there.
Yeah.
And we just have so much fun just talking comics, new and old. So we do that on our monthly calls. And if you go to the Patreon, patreon.com/secondprintpod, it's still going to be Second Print Pod because changing URLs, that's a whole nother thing. But you're going to see that we're actually expanding our behind the paywall content again. So if you're already in there for $5 a month, or you were thinking about jumping on, you're getting even more content behind the paywall than ever before. So not only are you going to have your Remso rants, you're also going to get weekly shows from yours truly. I have actually a mix of 4 shows that I've been doing over the last few months. So now you're going to get each of those once a month. You're going to get the Silver Age Spotlight. That's actually a new show that pretty much just debuted on the fly last week when I bring my friend Eric on. We realized we really like reading and going through and talking about Silver Age comics. So now every month we're going to be doing that show. Sometimes these will appear in the free feed too, to public face the content a little bit.
So don't unsubscribe, people.
So again, don't unsubscribe because there'll still be things appearing in your podcast feed and whatnot. But we'll be doing the Silver Age Spotlight with Eric. I'll also be continuing a couple other bonus shows that I've been doing already behind the paywall. The Savage Dragon Catch-Up Podcast, where I physically put together my Savage Dragon collection and I read those issues. I go through everything and I talk about the letters pages. I talk about the bonus show, the bonus strips, bonus comics, all this stuff. I go through it all. I'm also got the show More to the Story, where I'm simultaneously going through Alan Moore's run on Supreme and Wildcats from the 90s. At some point, I'll finish those and maybe move on to some other more obscure, lesser read, lesser known Alan Moore works. And then finally, what's the other show? I had 4. Oh yeah, Thunderstruck, the world's only Thunderstrike podcast. Now, I will say I have 15 issues of Thunderstrike. I'm not sure if that's when the series ended, but that's how many I have. So that's when that show ends. we're on, I think I'm on issue 7 now. So that show has a shorter shelf life, but it will be replaced by something. The point is, if you're behind that paywall, you're actually going to get more weekly content from each of us. And the biggest thing, which, as I mentioned earlier, our bread and butter was really those really long, intense deep dives. And it was unfortunate that we had to get away with that because there was just simply no way we could keep a weekly show where we're doing 2-hour deep dives. The time just does not add up. But we do want to get back to that format because that is what a lot of people love. Even I think that's part of why those, running those episodes in the hiatus did so well last year, because people really do enjoy the deep dives. That's something they don't get from a lot of the other comic book podcasts out there. They get more surface level stuff. And it was, to me, I think what made our show special is how deep we would dive on some of these storylines and diving into the characters, side tangents for 20 minutes on a character. That was really our bread and butter. There was just no way we can continue that weekly, but we are going to continue that format, and we're going to be doing that behind the paywall. So at least once per month, we're going to be doing a deep dive, sort of our classic SPC format. So for only $5 a month, which honestly, that's like $2 a month 3 years ago with inflation, but we've kept that the same. For $5 a month, you're actually going to get
America.
You're actually going to get a lot more content, probably than you're even getting now, time-wise, when you factor in the new shows we're doing, the extra shows we're doing, and those longer deep dives that you're going to get at least once monthly. In addition to that, all sorts of extra giveaways, because like I said, we're making this more of a club. So now, other than the $5 level, every level above that $5 level, we have a bunch of new tiers in there. You're getting comics sent to you. So even at the next level, formerly the Journey into Mystery level.
Some clap background in that, Mark.
Yeah,
I'll clap for you right now.
We love comics. Remso and I are going to we're going to help you grow your fucking pile, basically. I've talked about my vaunted fucking pile many times. We're going to help you grow your own fucking pile by sending you a bunch of random comics. So at every higher tier, every 3 months, you're going to get like 5 additional comics for your fucking pile. Or if you're on the higher tiers, the Epic Crossover, you're going to get a hardcover graphic novel at that level. And just check them all out, because at every single level, you're getting more and more comics. Certain levels, you get birthday gifts sent to you. You just got to see, we're going to make this a lot more interactive. We're going to make this a lot more leaning into our content, our classic content, diving a lot deeper on things, and giving you more content. So if you are a patron, I really do encourage you to stay on, because what you're going to get behind the paywall is actually more content for the same price. Or if you decide to upgrade, or for those of you who decide to jump on and join the club, you're just going to get so much more than even you got on the public show. So really, I'm hoping here is that it's a win-win, that we get to really return to our roots, do more of those classic deep dives that I think you and I really do love doing. We just didn't have the time to do it, and sort of rekindle that classic SPC vibe and strengthen that community. Because at the end of the day, we're all people who love comics, and a lot of us first came together. Honestly, it was therapy for us. I mean, we came together during those dark days of 2020, and we had plenty of time, so it really is in many ways what reignited my passion about comics. I had been reading them. I'd started reading comics again a little bit more, but doing these kind of deep dives, that the podcast really much became an excuse for me to read a bunch of stuff that I hadn't read, or return to a lot of stuff. And we've been able to bring that passion to our audience in the form of this podcast. And well, like the high evolutionary. You know, we're always looking for the next stage of our evolution, and this is it for now. So we encourage you to check it out. Remso, anything else you want to mention before we head over to talk to our patrons? Actually, we're about to hop on to our final journey into Mystery Call of this iteration, but the calls are still going to continue.
You know, every job I've ever had, and I do mean this, like after I graduated from college in 2017, other than like a few, like, you know, working at GameStop and shit like that, every like big boy job I ever had was because of podcasting. And I mean, even well before this show, when I was just podcasting out of my dorm and everything, it's what got me my job at the Washington Times. It's what got me my job at Parler. It's what got me my job in nonprofits. It's what got me my job at my old company. It's what has helped secure me my job at this company. It wasn't just podcasting necessarily. The podcasting was what kind of brought me there, but it was creating content. It was learning how to connect with people. You know, my job as a marketer is all about building a connection and a relationship to get people value. And, you know, see Second Print Comics grow from this to now, you know, in many ways, jumping to what we're doing over at Bounding in the Comics. And we have a fantastic team there, boundinginthecomics.com, Bounding Comics on X, and Bounding in the Comics on YouTube, where we've got like 3 videos a day going out right now, a bunch of different content. Like, this is, for many people, this is like a dream come true, and it really is. And to be able to get to continue to do this with Mark on like a real kick-ass level that we could not just do on our own is really great. And you know, I've always been a behind the scenes guy, and you know, just being able to do the show with you and being able to continue to do stuff over now the Second Print Comics Club on Patreon, it kind of gives me a balance of both things I like, which is getting to do stuff with my friends and getting to help other people create great things. So, you know, you all did this. You all kept us motivated. You all kept us going. You were there through the thick and thin. And this is what we hope is rewarding you for your patience, your friendship, and your commitment to this badass community. And it always comes down to this, Mark. It's short, it's sweet, it's simple. We'll scream it to the high heavens so there ain't no world no more. It's read comics and change the world. So, good night, America. The adventure continues.
And we'll see you in the club.